So there's lots of indicators of rapport, a warm gut in the feeling, and things flow, there's comfort. And from a business point of view, when you've got rapport with somebody, there's a level of trust and confidence that starts building in the relationship. People start sharing information with you, they rely on your judgment and they trust your judgment, you know. So it's in all contexts, rapport is really critical. So how? Matching and mirroring. So we've spoken a little bit about the body language and so on, what to match. However, you can match many different things. When you're first starting to become consciously aware of rapport, it's good to start with things like, you know, choosing an aspect of someone's posture or how they hold themselves or their arms, how they're crossing their legs and so on to match. If you do a lot of work on the phone, matching qualities of somebody's voice is really useful. I know Paul does a lot of that. He works on the phone with dealing with customers and clients all the time, and he will match their level of energy. Sometimes if their level of energy is really intense, then he will match that intensity. If they speak fast, he will match that speed. If the tonality is really low, he will match that. If it's really high, he may not, because he's a male, and to match something in a female, for example, who are traditionally more high, their tone is more high, may not be appropriate. So respect is critical in this whole idea of matching, and what do you match and how much do you match, is looking for those things that are respectful. It's not about copying someone, about mimicking them and exaggerating, you know, gestures and behaviours. It's about choosing things and being subtle and respectful about it to get into that flow, to improve that flow of rapport. And again, it always comes back to your outcome, and it's always done with the intention of helping the other person achieve their outcome as well. So you can match on many different levels. This is a neurological level of communication model. This is developed by Robert Dilts, who is also a very well-known NLP, creator, developer as well. And so, for example, the many levels to match on is from a very basic environmental point of view, where and when, you know, you go to an office and you wear a tie, or you go to an office and you don't wear a tie. That's matching very basic, very almost surface level things. You know, some clubs you're not allowed into if you don't have a tie, so you've got to match. You've got to do that. You can match the body, voice and language, the energy, we spoke about that. You can match the skills and interests of a person, you can match and mirror those. Their beliefs and values as well is something you can match, or you can learn to identify and understand. Paying attention to who they are as an individual is really important at an identity level. And finally, at a spiritual or a community level, connecting with someone from their point of view of the purpose and why they move through the world. Each of these indicates a different level of rapport and a different depth and degree of rapport. You know, again. We talk a little bit about whole body listening as well. What is it to listen with the whole body? And this is really has a lot to do with your attention. Is it on me or is it on the other person? It has a whole lot to do with, somebody mentioned, we spoke about eye contact a little bit earlier on in one of those images where there wasn't eye contact. Some people, eye contact is offensive, you know, too much eye contact. So measuring how much is it. But all these subtleties you can't pick up if you're not paying attention to the other person. You know, so having your attention outward is really, really important. So whole body listening is really about being centered on the other person and really knowing where you're coming from. So pacing and leading, so this is really important from the point of view of we want to be able to lead other people, sometimes to influence other people to help us achieve our outcomes and theirs. So you can't really lead others until you've built that bridge of trust and confidence to be able to guide them from one space to another. So how do you do that? So we spoke about some of those rapport building skills. Now, some people, we talk about rapport and we talk about, I'm deliberately matching someone. people are not stupid, you know. Meaning we shouldn't underestimate other people. If we do something to build rapport with them, they're not going to do something that they don't really want to do, you know, and neither will you, you know. So rapport it's very much about pacing, walking alongside someone, having those empathy skills, and then if you want to guide them somewhere else, then you have that relationship where you can then lead. So it really comes from walking alongside someone and then guiding them somewhere else. And leading, there it is. Leading is when you use the influence that you've built up from pacing. So pace, we often say pace, 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 then lead. And if your lead isn't working, then guess what? You drop back to pacing. And then pace, 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 pace. And then lead a little bit, go for a change in direction. And if that doesn't work, drop back to pacing. And with some relationships, that's really worthwhile to do. So really skilled communicators build rapport by connecting with people. They get in and walk in the other person's shoes. They connect from a belief and values level. That's where the deepest level is, and they look to identify what is really important to the other person, and they look to help them achieve that. And that is a real brilliant way to be able to influence other people to come along on the journey that you want to actually create. This is a little bit almost like a summary slide. So people who are brilliant communicators notice these things, you know. It's like if you're talking with a child, you get down on the level of the child and you match where they're at, you know, which is a beautiful place to be in, because that's how you learn about somebody else's viewpoint and perspective as well, you know. So you can match things, posture we spoke about, position of legs and so on, expressions, the direction of the look, the breathing rate, even if someone's breathing really fast or really slow, their movement, their voice and so on. Language patterns, the meta programs, they're sort of advanced skills. But it's really, you know, is anybody familiar, for example, with the Myers-Briggs indicator, that sort of thing? Understanding if someone's an extrovert and being able to match them in those skills, in those behaviours and so on. So meta programs have a lot to do with those different type of things. And matching sensitively with respect out of a genuine interest and desire, really, to create win-win-win outcomes. Do you know about win-win-win? It's not just win-win, it's win-win-win. Do you know about win-win-win? No? Don't know about win-win? Have a guess.
It's a lot of winning.
It is. Isn't that great? Yeah. Yeah. So I win, you win, and the system that we work and live in wins. So you win, your boss wins, and your family wins. That's a nice idea. Yeah? It's a real nice idea. Okay, so a lot of this rapport skills and learning rapport skills is in the practice of it. So these will be on the slides that you can pick up afterwards, but really it's just choosing one thing and just start practicing, matching that, being consciously aware. You probably do it already, but you may not be consciously aware of it yet. And so start noticing with people that you're really getting along with, oh, are we sitting the same? Oh, you know, like, you know, I just don't know. What? Oh, look at that. Oh my God. Stop. Freeze. Everybody have a look. Oh, no, no, look at the upper body. Everybody's absolutely, can you guys see that?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, okay. Oh, I love it when it works. Okay, so pick one thing and practice it, and practice it and practice it. It might be a key word. I mean, a lot of lawyers, or even accountants, we had it tonight. I'm not going to mention the accountants because they're in the minority and I don't believe in discrimination. However, just a quick example, I'm not going to identify anyone, but they all got together and they said, we're different, but they were the same. But they built rapport based on that they're all accountants. I mean, that was a starting point for them, wasn't it? Is anyone going to admit to it? No? Okay. Well, you have to take my word for it. It was. So So based on the fact that they're accountants, they all, started building rapport from that point. And I thought, how beautiful is that? Everybody's already doing it and they don't know that they're doing it. Not yet, but now they do. And you do too. Make sense? I love it. Okay. So, notice people, what's going on around you. Attention outward, not inward, outward. Can you tell who's in rapport and who isn't? What do you observe in phone conversations? We spoke about Paul's example earlier on, where he does a lot of phone calls and he matches people. It could be a key word that people use. A word I love using is beautiful. And whenever somebody says to me, that's beautiful, I go, yeah. I just feel really, it's like, there might be some words that some people say to you that make you really feel, Anyway, so it might be, look at the key words. In meetings, when you have a meeting, choose an aspect of it, somebody you want to build rapport with, and just pay attention to what happens. Choose one aspect of their behaviour. It could be how they hold their head, it could be how they hold their arms, something like that. And just practice matching that. It's all about practice, guys. You're in law, you know about that. Okay, more practice the better. When all else fails, just be interested in the other person. I promise you, and my email's at the end, you can email me and tell me if it doesn't work, but if you practice curiosity and interest in the other person, you will develop rapport, like genuine curiosity, genuine interest. In this example, imagine they have the greatest, they know all the ins and outs of, I don't know, Britney Spears or something I don't know. Just imagine they have all the wisdom in the world and all that great knowledge, and you're just sitting there absorbing it all in. What would that be like? And just notice how quickly you develop rapport. This last one's really interesting. If there's anybody in your life you're not getting on with, have a look and consider which level are you mismatching them at. Is it around values that you're operating differently? Is it around a belief system? Is it around a sense of identity? And then seek, if it's important to you and important to your outcome, look at how you can match that in a way that maintains your integrity, because maintaining your integrity is really very important as well. Remember, we all have different maps of the world. No, they're all unique. No one map is absolutely true. And that really on some level means we can accept in a non-judgmental way. Other people just have a different viewpoint, Okay. Here's where you get out that sheet again and have a look and just write down some, actions you might take, reflect on that. Actions or ideas from what we covered tonight. But there is a story I'd like to tell you. Very, very quick story. Once upon a time, there was a village. Guess where?
Patagonia.
Yes, in the hills of Patagonia, there was a small village, and the inhabitants in the village were starving. They were very, very hungry. There lived a dragon in the field that stopped them from going to and harvesting their crop. So one day, a traveller came by who was very hungry, and he said to them, "Can you give me some food to eat?" And they said, "We can't, we're starving." He said, "Why?" There's a dragon in the field and we can't go and harvest our crop." And the traveller, feeling very brave, says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll go fix that for you." And he goes to the field and approaches the field, and there's this big shape in the field, and he gets close and says, it's a watermelon. That's not a dragon. So he goes back to the villagers and he says to the villagers, "There's no dragon there. It's a watermelon." And the villagers were furious with this man for refusing to understand their fear. And so they jumped him, attacked him, and hacked him to pieces. Well, time goes by. A few weeks later, another traveller comes along. And he says to the villagers, "Can I have some food?" And by this stage, they're really desperate and starving, right? And they say, "Oh, no food." And he said, "Why?" "Well, there's a dragon in the field and we can't get our crop." So he says, "I'll fix that." And they were so overjoyed. Oh my God, finally somebody to help us. So he goes to the field. Big watermelon. So he goes back to the village and says, "It's a watermelon." Anyway, not very impressed. Guess what? He was hacked to pieces. Little few weeks later, a third traveller comes by and he says, "Can I have some food?" And by this stage, these guys were just on the ground, like, really, really hungry, desperate. And they said, "Look, we don't have any food." And he said, "What's the problem?" "Well, there's this big dragon in our field and we can't get rid of it." And he said, "Okay, I'll handle it for you." So he goes to the field and guess what? He sees the watermelon. He thinks for a moment. Okay. He pulls out his sword and hacks the watermelon to pieces. And he goes back to the villagers and says, "I've just killed your dragon." And the villagers were overjoyed. And they were able then to go harvest their crop. And that traveller, the third traveller, lived with the villagers long enough and happy enough to teach them the difference between dragons and watermelons. And that's it. So Louise asked me to finish up with you guys and to remind you all about that we've got a few other sessions coming up in relation to different things, all focusing really on self-leadership, things around managing emotions, all connected to the emotional intelligence model we spoke about, living authentically, empowering belief systems, how to develop that, talking a bit more about outcomes. Every session we run builds on the previous session, but you don't need to attend all of them, so they're all self-contained but also build on. There's one about time and are you living in the past, present or future? Where do you see yourself? And also about living mindfully. So there's, you probably all connect. If you've got any questions about anything, there's some things that I do as well down the bottom there as well. In relation to NLP and management consulting, coaching and various things. If you're interested in any of that, please talk to Louise about that. She'd be very happy to hear from you all. And just finally, I feel very honoured and very privileged to be standing here and sharing the little that I know with all of you. I think there's so much potential in the room that just blows my mind away. I want to thank Louise and John for hosting this event and creating the opportunity for you all, and certainly for creating something which is relatively unique in the legal industry, in the professional services industry. I think we need to, personally, I really believe we need to become more holistic in how we move through the world. You're much more than lawyers or accountants or IT people. You're much more than that, and discovering who you are and living from that space and being who you are is the journey and the destination. And what I really wish for all of you is to be very, very happy in what you do and share it. Share it with everyone. Thank you very much.